The exclusive Korean restaurant, Myeongjae, hummed with the quiet conversations of New York's elite. Crystal fixtures cast a golden glow over dark wood tables and fine porcelain, while waitstaff moved with practiced precision. This wasn't just any restaurant. It was neutral territory in a city divided by invisible lines of power. Amara Diallo, a 25-year-old African woman, adjusted her red vest over her crisp white waitress dress, her stomach in knots. 6 months at Myeongjae, and she still felt out of place among patrons who spent more on a bottle of soju than she made in a month. Tonight was particularly tense. The private section had been reserved for Jin-woo Kwon and his associates. Even Amara, who avoided the news, knew who the powerful Korean Mafia boss was. The whispers followed him everywhere, heir to the Kwon crime family, the man who controlled half of New York's underworld. Now at 34, his name alone commanded fear and respect. "Table 7 needs you," Maya, the head waitress, whispered urgently. "And Amara, be perfect. That's the Kwon table." Amara's stomach tightened as she approached. 5 men in expensive black suits sat around the table, their conversations ceasing the moment she arrived. But it was the man at the head of the table who commanded her attention. Jin-woo Kwon exuded an aura of absolute control. He wore a perfectly tailored black Mafia suit over a pristine white collared shirt, its top buttons undone to reveal a subtle gold chain. With slicked-back dark hair and eyes that seemed to absorb all light, he didn't need to raise his voice to dominate a room. A heavy gold watch glinted on his wrist, beside the edge of an intricate dragon tattoo disappearing beneath his sleeve. "Another round," one of the men ordered without looking at her. Amara nodded, turning to leave when a conversation from a nearby table caught her ear. A Japanese businessman was entertaining international clients from Senegal. "I apologize," the businessman was saying, his voice strained. "I hired a translator, but they canceled last minute," one of his guests responded in rapid, frustrated Wolof. The businessman looked increasingly uncomfortable, a major deal hanging in the balance. Before Amara could stop herself, she stepped toward their table. "Perhaps I can be of assistance," she offered in flawless Wolof. The Senegalese businessmen looked up, their surprise quickly turning to relief. One responded eagerly, explaining their predicament. Amara nodded. "He says they need to finalize the contract terms tonight, or they'll have to take their business elsewhere," she translated for the astonished Japanese businessman. "You speak Wolof?" he asked, amazed. "My grandmother was from Senegal. I grew up speaking it," Amara explained with a humble shrug. What she failed to notice was that the conversation at the Kwon table had stopped. All eyes, including those of the formidable Korean Mafia boss, were now fixed on her. $10 million to anyone here who can translate what I'm about to say," Jin-woo Kwon suddenly announced, his voice carrying a subtle challenge that silenced the entire restaurant. His men exchanged confused glances. This was unusual behavior for their boss. Several patrons shifted uncomfortably, but no one dared to engage. Amara hesitated, her rational mind screaming at her to walk away. But $10 million was a life-altering sum. It would solve every financial problem she and her mother had ever faced. Turning slowly, she met the Mafia boss's intense gaze. "I'll translate," she said, her voice softer than intended. The corner of Jin-woo's mouth twitched. He leaned forward, speaking in perfect, low Wolof, his voice a deep timbre meant only for her. The question was unexpectedly personal. "What do you see when you look at a man like me? Do you see the monster everyone whispers about, or the man no one knows?" Amara's breath caught. He wasn't just asking for a translation, he was testing her. "He asked what I see when I look at a man like him." She translated carefully for the room. "If I see the monster everyone fears, or the man no one knows." A flicker of surprise crossed Jin-woo's features before his expression settled back into careful neutrality. "And what's your answer?" he asked, switching effortlessly to English. The question hung in the air, charged with unspoken meaning. Amara should have been intimidated, but she met his gaze steadily. "I don't see either yet," she replied truthfully. "I don't know you well enough to see the man, and I make a point not to believe rumors about monsters." A beat of silence followed. Then, Jin-woo Kwon did something that shocked his men. He laughed, A genuine, deep laugh that momentarily transformed his severe face. "Bring us another round," he said, dismissing her with a nod. "And the 10 million is yours. I'll have it delivered." Amara returned to her duties, feeling his eyes on her for the rest of the evening. By closing time, the Kwan party had left. As Amara wiped down tables, Maya approached, her face pale. "What did you say to him?" she whispered. "He left this for you." She handed Amara a thick black card with only a phone number embossed in gold. "Amara, do you have any idea who he is? Men like that Korean Mafia boss don't notice women like us unless they want something. Be careful." Amara slipped the card into her pocket, but its weight seemed to burn against her thigh. 2 days later, a sleek black envelope appeared on her doormat. Inside was a check for exactly $10 million and a handwritten note. "A debt honored is a reputation maintained. M." She stared at the check, her hands trembling. How had he found her address? The implication sent a chill through her that was equal parts fear and something else she couldn't name. What she didn't know was that Jin-Woo Kwon never did anything without purpose. Her presence had just disrupted years of his carefully laid plans. Amara hadn't expected to see the Korean Mafia boss again, but then the flowers arrived at Myeongjie, a stunning arrangement of white orchids with a simple card. "Thank you for your assistance." "Just how well do you know him?" Maya asked, her voice low and worried. "People who get involved with the Kwon family don't just walk away." That night, Amara finally searched Jin-Woo Kwon online. On paper, he was the legitimate CEO of Kwon Holdings, a conglomerate with interests in real estate and international trade. His public image was pristine. But behind the veneer were whispered stories of vanquished rivals and a family history tied to the origins of New York's Korean underworld. He had taken over the family at 25 after his father's retirement, expanding the Kwon empire and making it more sophisticated and insulated from the law. Absorbed in her research, she almost missed the soft knock at her door. Checking the peephole, she found Min-jun, Jin-Woo's driver. "Mr. Kwon requests your presence," he said, his tone making it clear it wasn't a request. 20 minutes later, she was in the back of a black luxury car, heading toward a penthouse on the Upper East Side. The private elevator opened directly into a vast living space with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the glittering cityscape. Jin-Woo stood by the windows, his back to her. He had discarded his suit jacket, his white shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal powerful forearms covered in intricate tattoos. "Thank you for coming," he said without turning. "Did I have a choice?" Amara retorted. He turned, the intensity of his gaze striking her again. "There's always a choice, Samara." It was the first time he'd used her name. "I needed to speak with you somewhere private. Your grandmother was Fatou Diallo, correct?" An uneasy feeling settled in Amara's stomach. "How do you know her name?" "The same way I know she left Senegal in 1982 under complicated circumstances. The same way I know she changed her name when she arrived in America, and that your mother was never told the whole story." "My grandmother was a seamstress who came here for a better life," Amara insisted. "The Diallos weren't just any family in Dakar," Jin-Woo continued, his eyes never leaving hers. "They controlled the city's shipping ports for 3 generations. Your grandmother was the last surviving member after a rival family, the Tanakas, moved against them." Amara felt as if the floor had tilted. It wasn't possible. Yet, memories suddenly rearranged themselves. Her grandmother's insistence on teaching her Wolof, the mysterious late-night phone calls, the way she always kept her back to the wall in public. "Your grandmother was the daughter of Moussa Diallo, one of the most feared men in Dakar," Jin-Woo stated. "When the Tanaka clan orchestrated the attack, they eliminated everyone except Fatou, who escaped with help from an ally." "Why are you telling me this?" Amara whispered. "Because the Tanaka clan now operates here in New York. Their current leader, Kaido Tanaka, has learned of your existence. And your existence complicates things." "Complicates what?" "Territorial agreements, legacy claims, old blood debts. The old families have long memories, Amara. Whether you like it or not, you're part of that history now." A chill ran through her. "Are you saying I'm in danger?" "I'm saying that knowledge is protection," Jin-Woo replied, his expression unreadable. "And that you now have my attention." His attention could be a shield or a sentence. I don't want any part of this world, Amara said firmly. Unfortunately, you've been recognized. So, what do I do? You let me help you. Why would you help me? Our families have no history. My grandfather and yours were business associates, Jean Wu said, a surprising revelation. They maintained a mutually beneficial arrangement for decades. My family owes a debt of honor to the Diallo name. Before Amara could respond, Jean Wu's phone chimed. His expression hardened. We have to go. There's a situation. What kind of situation? The kind that makes knowing who you are even more important right now. He retrieved his black suit jacket. Minjun will take you home. Stay there. Don't answer your door unless it's me, he paused, reaching out and brushing his fingertips against her cheek. The touch was so light it might have been imagined. Good, he said softly. Fear keeps people alive in my world. Back in her apartment, sleep eluded her. The next day, restlessness drove her to her mother's house in Queens, where boxes of her grandmother's belongings were stored in the attic. Beneath layers of clothing in an old trunk, Amara found a false bottom. Inside was a small leather-bound journal, a tarnished silver locket, and a yellowed envelope. The journal was written in a coded Wolof. The locket held a photo of a handsome young man. But it was the envelope's contents that made her blood run cold. Official documents changing a name from Fatou Diallo to Fana Diop, and a newspaper clipping reporting the massacre of the Diallo family, with Fatou listed among the dead. Her grandmother had faked her own death. Everything the powerful Korean Mafia boss had told her was true. She didn't hear the front door open until a shadow fell across the attic floor. I told you to stay in your apartment, Jean Wu said from the doorway, his voice tight with anger. How did you find me? I have people watching you. Normally, she would have been outraged, but now she could only stare at him. You are telling the truth, she said softly. I rarely lie, he replied, his anger seeming to fade as he took in her stunned expression. He knelt beside her, his fingers hovering over the journal. This could be valuable. The Diallos were known for their extensive network. Their records were believed to be lost. Is that why you're interested in me? For my grandmother's information? His eyes met hers, surprisingly earnest. That's part of it. But not all. He reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her face. You intrigue me, Amara Diallo. You carry yourself with the innate confidence of your bloodline. Before she could retort, his phone rang. His expression darkened. We need to leave. Now. What's wrong? Someone else has connected the dots. Kaito Tanaka. He's the one whose family orchestrated the hit on yours. And now he's in New York. What does he want with me? To finish what his grandfather started, Jean Wu said grimly. Or to use you as leverage against me. Either way, you're not safe here. I need to warn my mother. Your mother is already being watched by my men, he cut in. The safest thing you can do for her is to come with me now, torn between instinct and his undeniable logic. Amara hesitated. How do I know I can trust you? My family is bound by an old promise to yours, he said, extending his hand. For now, we need to leave. Against her better judgment, Amara placed her hand in his. His fingers closed around hers, warm and strong. A black SUV idled at the curb. This is Kai, Jean Wu said, indicating a man in the passenger seat. He'll be part of your security detail. Where are we going? She asked as the city gave way to the lush greenery of upstate New York. One of my properties. It's secure, remote, and not publicly connected to me. 2 hours later, they arrived at a modern glass and stone house built into the landscape. My mother designed it, Jean Wu said with a hint of softness. She believed that power didn't need to announce itself. Inside, he showed her to a suite in the East Wing. There are clothes in the closet. My assistant guessed your size. Jean Wu, she began, using his first name without thinking. What happens now? Now you stay here where it's safe while I deal with Kaito Tanaka, he replied. Your mother believes you've taken a leave of absence for a wellness retreat. Your job will be held for you. As for your life, he paused, that depends on what we learn from your grandmother's journal. Alone in the suite, Amara turned to the journal. The code was complex, but she recognized patterns from a secret language her grandmother had taught her as a child. Hours passed as she pieced together the truth of Fatou Diallo's life, her position in a powerful family, a forbidden romance, the betrayal that led to her family's destruction, and her harrowing escape with the help of an unnamed ally from the Quan family. The final entry contained a warning. If you are reading this, it means our enemies have found you. Trust no one except those who bear the mark of the dragon. The Quan dragon is bound by a blood oath to protect the last of the Diallo line. This is a debt that transcends generations. Amara stared at the words, then thought of the dragon tattoo she glimpsed on Jinwoo's forearm. She had lost track of time when a housekeeper knocked. Mr. Quan asked me to check if you would like dinner. She found Jinwoo in the dining room, working on a laptop. He looked up, a flash of relief in his eyes. I wasn't sure you'd join me. I found something, she said, taking a seat. My grandmother wrote about a blood oath. A dragon mark, like the one you have. Jinwoo was silent for a moment, then slowly rolled up his left sleeve to reveal the tattoo in its entirety, an intricately detailed dragon coiled in protection over what Amara now recognized as the Diallo family crest. The oath was taken by my grandfather, he explained quietly. Your great-grandfather saved his life. In return, he swore that the Quans would always protect the Diallo bloodline. He rotated his arm to show a date tattooed beneath the dragon, the day they had met at Myeongjie. When I realized who you were, I added this. A reminder of when my obligation began. So all of this, it's just about honoring an old promise? His eyes darkened. Initially, yes. And now he held her gaze. Now it's more complicated. The air crackled with a tension that had nothing to do with family history. You hardly know me, she said softly. I know enough, he countered. I know you're brave enough to look me in the eye. I know you're loyal enough to worry about your mother's safety before your own. I know you're intelligent enough to decipher a code that has stumped experts. He reached across the table, his fingers stopping just short of hers. And I know that when I'm with you, I feel something I haven't felt in a very long time. What's that? Amara whispered. Possibility, he answered simply. Before either could act on the building tension, his phone vibrated. His expression hardened. Kaido Tanaka has made contact. He's requesting a meeting. What does that mean? It means he's willing to negotiate. His eyes were cold and calculating once more. He's offering terms. What kind of terms? His jaw tightened. A marriage alliance. Between you and his son. Amara's stomach dropped. That's medieval. It's business. Jinwoo corrected, though disgust laced his tone. He's trying to legitimize his claim to former Diallo assets by binding your bloodline to his. And if I refuse, then we move to less civilized methods of conflict resolution. Amara pushed away from the table. This is insane. I can't be bartered away. Jinwoo rose, his presence filling the space between them. No one is bartering you. I won't accept his terms. Why not? Isn't that the simplest solution? A dangerous glint appeared in his eyes. Because you're under my protection, he stepped closer, his hand coming up to cradle her face with surprising gentleness. And because the oath I honor gives me the right to refuse any claim on your behalf. And what if I decided to accept? She challenged. You won't, he said with absolute certainty, his thumb tracing the line of her jaw. You won't surrender to threats. It's not in your nature. Their faces were inches apart. Jinwoo, she breathed. He answered by closing the final distance, his lips capturing hers in a kiss that was both fierce and consuming. His arms enveloped her, strong and secure. This was madness. He was a dangerous Korean mafia boss, a man from a world she was only beginning to comprehend. But in that moment, none of it mattered. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, a raw vulnerability shone in his eyes. This complicates things, he said, his voice rough. A small, breathless laugh escaped her. I think things were already complicated. Before he could answer, a security alarm blared through the house. His expression transformed instantly, all tenderness replaced by cold calculation. Stay here, he ordered, moving toward the door and drawing a gun from inside his jacket. What's happening? His eyes met hers one last time. It seems Kaido Tanaka wasn't as interested in negotiating as I thought. Time lost all meaning in the windowless panic room where security had taken her. Hours later, the heavy door hissed open. Jinwoo stepped inside, his pristine white shirt spotted with blood and a bruise darkening his jaw. "Are you hurt?" she asked, rushing to him. "It's not my blood," he replied flatly. "Kaido sent men to extract you. They failed." The clinical statement sent a chill down her spine. This was the Jinwoo Quan the world feared. "They've been handled," he said simply. "We need to move you. This location is compromised." The journey back to the city passed in silence. His penthouse was a fortress, occupying the top 3 floors of a building he owned. "Try to rest," he told her, showing her to a guest suite. "We'll talk in the morning," but rest was impossible. Dawn found her watching the city wake up. A soft knock drew her attention. Jinwoo stood in the doorway, freshly showered, the only evidence of the previous night the fading bruise. "We need to discuss our next steps," he said, maintaining a careful distance. "Our next steps. It became your fight the moment Kaido learned of your existence. You're a Diallo, and that name still carries weight." He paused. "I've called a meeting of the syndicates. The first full council in over a decade. Kaido has violated our peace accords. He will be held accountable." "Like in the movies?" Amara asked, stunned. "That's a real thing." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "The council operates as a governing body. Your family will be formally recognized as under Quan protection. So, I just sit here while my fate is decided by a room full of men? This is how our world works, Samara," he said, his voice gentler than his words. He moved closer, the heat of his body at her back. "You adapt. You learn the rules, then you figure out how to bend them. It's what your grandmother did." She turned to face him. "Is that what you do?" "I do what's necessary to protect what's mine." The possessive word hung between them. "I'm not yours," she said, though the words lacked conviction. He reached up, his fingertips tracing the line of her cheek. "Aren't you? The moment you accepted my help, something changed." He slid his hand to the nape of her neck. "The council meets tonight. I need to know you'll stay here where it's safe. And after? Then we figure out what this is between us." It was a promise of possibility. Amara nodded slowly. "I'll stay." The day passed with Amara poring over her grandmother's journal. The entries painted a picture of a betrayal from within the Diallo family, sold out by someone close to them. The journal hinted it was Fatu's own fiancé, a man from a neutral family secretly aligned with the Tanakas, a man whose surname was eerily similar to Kaido Tanaka's mother's maiden name. Just as she was about to share her discovery, the housekeeper, an older woman named Mrs. Choi, appeared. "Mr. Quan asked me to inform you that the council meeting has been moved up. He's already left." "Where is it being held?" Amara pressed. "The old Sakura restaurant in Japantown," Mrs. Choi relented. "It's neutral territory." Her mind raced. It was a setup, just like the one that had destroyed her family. "I need to warn him." "No phones during council meetings," the housekeeper said. "Then I have to go there. His life might depend on it." Something shifted in Mrs. Choi's expression. "The service elevator," she said quietly. "The guard there is new." 20 minutes later, Amara was in a taxi. The restaurant was closed for the evening. As she hesitated across the street, a black car pulled up. Kaido Tanaka emerged, followed by an elderly man who matched the faded photograph in her grandmother's locket, the man who had betrayed her family. This was an ambush decades in the making. Suddenly, a hand clamped over her mouth. "Don't scream," a woman's voice whispered. "I'm here to help." Amara turned to face an elegant woman in her late 50s. "Who are you?" "Sun Hee Kwan," the woman replied. "Jinwoo's mother." "He said you were in Seoul." A smile curved Sun Hee's lips. "My son likes to think he knows where everyone is." Her expression turned serious. "Now, tell me why you're here." Quickly, Amara explained her discovery. "History does indeed repeat itself," Sun Hee said, her face hardening. "Come with me." She led Amara through a hidden passage into an old office above the restaurant. Through a vent, they could hear the meeting below. "The Quan family harboring a Diallo without council approval violates our agreements," Kaido Tanaka was saying. "The reemergence of an heir falls under legacy protection," Jinwoo's controlled voice replied. The elderly man, Kenji Tanaka, Kaido's grandfather and the architect of the Diallo massacre, spoke next. Perhaps this calls for a traditional resolution, a union between families to restore balance. There will be no union, Jin Woo's voice scraped back. The Diallo heir remains under Quan protection. Any move against her is an act of war. The tension was palpable. Suddenly, the meeting room door burst open and armed men flooded in. Federal agents. Everyone on the ground. In the chaos, Sun Hee pulled Amara away. "We need to leave. My son can handle himself." They retreated through the passage as sirens wailed. Sun Hee took her to a small, private apartment. "Someone tipped off the authorities," she explained. "And I have a strong suspicion who it was." "Jin Woo," Amara breathed. "My son plays a long game," Sun Hee confirmed. "Kaido has been under federal investigation for months. This meeting was the perfect trap. The authorities have nothing on Jin Woo that will stick, but Kaido's operations are less insulated." Soon after, a knock sounded. Sun Hee opened the door to reveal Jin Woo, his expression thunderous until his eyes found Amara, flashing with relief before hardening into anger. "You were supposed to stay at the penthouse." "If I had," Amara replied calmly, "you wouldn't know that Kenji Tanaka was the man who betrayed my grandmother's family 60 years ago." Jin Woo's gaze flickered to his mother, who nodded. Some of the tension left his shoulders. "Kaido Tanaka has been arrested on multiple federal charges," he informed them. "His organization will be in chaos for years. Kenji avoided arrest, but his influence is gone. I made sure certain evidence found its way to the right federal agents. He had not only neutralized a threat, but consolidated his own power." "You risked a lot," Amara observed. His eyes met hers. "Some things are worth the risk." 6 months later, Amara stood at the windows of their penthouse, watching snow fall over Manhattan. So much had changed. The Tanaka clan was dismantled. Kenji had retreated to Japan in disgrace. And Amara had found her place in this new world. "Penny for your thoughts." Jin Woo's voice came from behind her, his arms encircling her waist. "Just reflecting," she said, leaning back against him. "No regrets." "The first guests will arrive soon," he reminded her. Tonight, they would officially introduce the long-lost Diallo heir to their society and announce their engagement. His hand found hers, his thumb brushing over the antique ring that had belonged to his grandmother. "Are you ready for this?" The past months had been a gradual integration into his world. She had been surprised to find that parts of it felt natural, as if some hereditary memory was dormant within her. "I'm ready," she assured him. The gathering was small and exclusive. Amara greeted guests with a newfound confidence, no longer the uncertain waitress, but a woman coming into her own. Her mother was there, deep in conversation with Sun Hee. Explaining everything had been a challenge, but her mother had admitted to suspecting parts of the story for years. Later, with Amara at his side, Jin Woo formally declared their engagement and her recognition as the legitimate heir to the Diallo legacy. He announced that the territories once held by her family would be restored under joint Quan Diallo administration, with profits directed to a foundation in Musa Diallo's name. It was a brilliant move, framed as historical justice rather than a power grab. When the last guest had departed, Jin Woo led her to the terrace. "When I first met you," he said quietly, "I asked what you saw when you looked at me." Amara turned, framing his face with her hands. "I see you," she said simply. "All of you. The leader, the protector, the man who loves with an intensity that matches everything else he does." He turned his head to press a kiss into her palm. "Not everyone could accept both sides. Not everyone understands what it's like to have a dual heritage," she replied. "The waitress and the Diallo heir. We both lived in two worlds. Now we've created our own." "Something new from something old," Jin Woo observed, drawing her closer. As the snow fell around them, Amara kissed the Korean Mafia boss who had pulled her into his dangerous world and found himself transformed by her. The monster and the man, the waitress and the heir, all parts of who they were, now intertwined in a future neither could have imagined, a future they would navigate together.